it's really important that we understand biases, and even some of our trusted news sources operate from a place of bias, and we need to be mindful of that. And so when we have conversations about, for example, foreign issues, and we'll say, an invasion and an occupation from Russia into Ukraine, well, that's an invasion occupation, that's wrong. Well, an invasion and occupation in Gaza, isn't that also wrong? Or if we're just looking at things based on these two terms of invasion and occupation, right, what does that mean? And so, but then understanding that from a U.S. foreign policy standpoint, Russia is not an ally, but Israel is. And so when we have conversations about the use of terms of occupation, invasion, et cetera, depending on who the U.S. ally is, that's how our information is going to come in via our media. So just really wanted to make sure that we're understanding and being critical about the information that we receive, and being mindful that we as a public actually have a lot more power than we think we do. We don't have to take everything at face value. We can question. That's honestly the beauty of living in the United States, is that we can question our leaders. We can say, no, I don't agree with this policy that you've established here, there, or wherever. I do think that we should, even with our allies, that there should be boundaries on the aid in which we give them. And when we see that aid is being used in a way that doesn't necessarily align with our morals and views, then we should say, hey, wait a minute, before we give more, let's have a conversation about that, even when it comes to the quote unquote right to protect yourself. But just having these understanding, these critical conversations, I think is really, really important. And that doesn't make you un-American or any of these other things, but it does make you, I think, even more patriotic when you want to question. When you look at the founding of this country, it started with questions being asked. Why are we subscribing to, right, this the king who lives on this country over here, when we can make our own decisions for our own people? And so I think it's really, really important that all of us, are critical with the information that we receive. We verify it to the best of our ability before we not only take it at face value, but also before we share it, before we disseminate it, whether it be on social media or just in casual conversations with our loved ones and other people. Hey, I heard this will happen. Well, where'd you hear that from, Mom? Where'd you hear that from, Dad? Where'd you hear that from, Uncle? And just make sure, where'd you hear that from, best friend? And just be, making sure that we are being true, engaged citizens as we get to the point of November of 2024, where we're electing the next leader of our country.